So we have some questions in the chat box. So maybe if people have any other questions, we can put them there. But we are running a bit short of time actually, so we won't get to too many questions. But I'll try to answer the questions at least briefly.
Okay.
Yep. So the first one from Stevenson says, and this is one that was sent privately. It's probably best if you send the questions, if you have them, to send them to the whole group, because then Lucky can also read them and it'll help him to be able to translate them.
Okay.
So, but I'll just read this one that was sent in a private chat. Can an arahata who is very synonymous with mindfulness, could they develop a disease like dementia, right? Which the sufferer loses short-term memory and even changes his personality. So that's an interesting question, and I don't know if I could answer it conclusively, but it seems to be that yes, that is possible. That I'm not sure to what extent or how that would happen, but for example, the students of Ajahn Chah said that when Ajahn Chah was reaching his kind of last days, that he would, he would like mix words up or something like that. And so it wasn't that he would do anything unwholesome, but it's just like sort of the wiring in the brain gets confused. And so I think that something like that is possible for somebody who's an arahant.
Okay, I'll translate first ya.
Thanks.
Ya. Jadi pertanyaannya itu adalah apakah seorang arahat yang sangat identik dengan penuh kesadaran bisa terserang penyakit seperti demensia yang mana penderitanya kehilangan ingatan jangka pendek bahkan kepribadiannya berubah. Jadi memang bisa seperti itu, tapi ini seperti orang-orang yang mengalami ini sebenarnya bukan dia bermaksud untuk melakukan perbuatan yang tidak baik, tapi memang dari pikirannya dia ada sesuatu yang menyebabkan dia untuk melakukan hal-hal seperti itu.
Okay. So the next question that was asked here by the same person was, can a person who's often forgetful or leaves things behind, can they be concluded that they're not a meditator? Well, I think that would be a bit harsh. I think that somebody is forgetful and so on, then that's just natural. It normally happens, and people can be meditators and even meditate for a long time and still be forgetful sometimes. So obviously, if you have good mindfulness at that time, then you won't be forgetting things, but it's a process. So that's okay. Don't be too harsh on yourself and don't be too judgmental of others. It takes a while.
Jadi pertanyaannya, apakah seorang yang sering pelupa atau tertinggal sesuatu bisa disimpulkan bahwa ia bukan seorang meditator, praktek meditasi ya. Nah, menurut Bante, jangan terlalu keras atau terlalu berpikir terlalu dalam mengenai hal ini, karena itu tergantung dari seberapa mindfulnya, seberapa konsentrasinya kita pada saat kita praktek. Meditator pun bisa melupakan sesuatu itu jika dia punya mindful atau konsentrasinya itu tidak ada di situ, tidak ada di tempat.
Okay, so I've got another question here from the user Tunes, and I'm not sure that I understand the question. So please, Tunes, if you please feel free to offer some more details in the chat about what you're exactly meaning. I'll try to answer it, but I'm not exactly sure that I understand what it is that you're asking here. But the question is, how about personality? What kind of khandha each person's personality is? Well, I think that, again, if I understand the question correctly, because each person has all 5 khandhas, right? So it's not like, we're lacking them or something like that. But I think it's also true that within different people and within even like the same person over their life, as they develop and grow over life, that they might emphasize one or other aspect of the khandhas, and that can influence their personality. And so some obvious examples might be, for example, some people are much more obsessed about their bodies, and they maybe do a lot of bodybuilding, or they do, very concerned about their health or their exercise or something like that. And so, to get a good exercise and a good diet and so on is good, and it's healthy to do that. But also it can go too far, and people can get very obsessed with their bodies, and even doing a lot of plastic surgery and these kinds of things. And it can come from like an over-identification with the body. It's too much. So that can be an aspect of personality. Another kind of personality, for example, might be like a very feeling person, right? And I'm sure we all know people like that. People are very emotional, people who react very in a feeling basis, very intuitively to things. And that's a kind of another personality. And again, that's good, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it can be too much. We can over-identify with our feelings. Or another case is the choices or the intentions. And that's something that often happens when people like to identify with choices, traditionally would be something that's expected of men, and especially men in like middle-aged and older, that you're supposed to be in the role in a family or in a work of being a decider, right? I am the decider. I am the one who makes the rules. I am the one who decides what happens. And so you can become, if you're in that kind of role, then you can become overly attached to that aspect of making choices. Right? And again, it's not wrong to be making those choices, and it's natural to be attached to them to some degree, but it can become too much. So that's, if I understand your question, that's what some thoughts on that. Okay. Briefly, another question. Lucky, do you want to translate that?
Yep, let me translate. Oke, jadi pertanyaannya adalah tadi bagaimana dengan personality seseorang, jenis kanda apa yang seseorang punya dalam setiap personality-nya dia. Nah, jadi jawabannya Bante adalah setiap orang memang mempunyai 5 kanda, tetapi benar setiap kanda itu berbeda di setiap orang. Jadi setiap orang itu di suatu kehidupan dia mempunyai satu kanda yang masih melebihi dari kanda-kanda lainnya. Nah, contohnya misalnya ada orang-orang yang terlalu obses, terlalu melekat terhadap dia punya tubuh. Jadi mereka melakukan olahraga, mereka melakukan diet dan lain-lainnya. Tetapi walaupun dia boleh melakukan ini, dia tidak boleh terlalu berlebihan melakukan ini. Nah, seperti misalnya juga operasi plastik. Operasi plastik ini juga dilakukan. Ini untuk identifikasinya dia, tetapi tidak boleh dilakukan berlebihan. Nah, karena jikalau ini semua dilakukan berlebihan, itu akan berkaitan dengan personality-nya dia. Nah, bisa juga orang yang mempunyai perasaan. Nah, orang yang mempunyai perasaan ini itu berkaitan dengan emosinya dia, dengan intuisinya dia sebagai personal. Oleh karena itu, jika dia akan terlalu banyak berperasaan ini, maka ini akan berpengaruh terhadap personality-nya dia. Nah, begitu juga dengan pilihan. Nah, pada saat mempunyai intention yang tinggi tentang pilihan-pilihan ini biasanya terjadi kepada orang-orang yang ada di pertengahan umur, yang masih muda, yang di dalam keluarga dia itu sebagai pengambil keputusan di keluarga tersebut, sehingga pada saat ini terjadi itu selalu apa yang dia inginkan itu harus terjadi. Nah, ini boleh, tetapi sekali lagi ini tidak boleh terlalu berlebihan, karena pada saat ini terlalu berlebihan ini akan berpengaruh terhadap personality orangnya itu. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. So then, thank you for that. And the next question. Look, this is one of those questions. A person's asking. So this is from Arya and Maja. Look, it's a really good question, but it would take a long answer. But anyway, so Vandami Bante. Now we know about Nakulapita and about what the Buddha said to him. But when Sariputta talked about that an uneducated person thinks this body is self and so on, then some of us will think further. Don't we have what people call a self, or do we have a self, or don't we have a self? And so they're asking me to give more of an explanation about anatta and not self. Translate that one?
Oh, yeah. What is the question again? I cannot see the question. Hold on.
The question is, can I give some more explanation about not self?
Oh, oke. Jadi pertanyaannya adalah bagaimana menurut Bante tentang anatta, tentang tidak adanya diri. Jadi memang seperti tadi yang dijelaskan bahwa kita itu tubuh itu adalah diri. Jadi kalau misalnya kita berpikir tadi seperti yang Bante jelaskan bahwa tubuh itu juga sebenarnya tidak ada diri, kalau kita berpikir ke dalam itu akan terpecah-pecah tubuh kita ini.
So
there is one person. Oh, sorry, Bante. Go ahead.
Yeah, go on. So very, very briefly, what the Buddha was talking about when he's talking about not self, he doesn't mean that you don't exist.
Jadi waktu Buddha mengatakan tentang tidak adanya diri ini bukan berarti kamu itu tidak ada atau tidak eksis.
And obviously, he's not denying the obvious reality that, I am me and you are you, and people just exist and sort of walk around in the planet in just a kind of ordinary way.
Jadi sebenarnya itu bukan berarti kita itu tidak deny bahwa itu ada kamu, aku. Memang sebenarnya ini kita ada di sini dan kita itu melakukan aktivitas di dunia ini.
But what he's talking about is he's saying that there's no kind of unique, unchangeable essence that is now and forever what you are.
Jadi yang dimaksud dengan di sini adalah tidak ada suatu uniqueness ya, sesuatu unsur yang memang itu tidak berubah terhadap siapa kamu gitu.
So what you are is always changing.
Jadi kita itu adalah sesuatu yang selalu berubah-ubah.
Yeah, so in brief that's what the Buddha was talking about with the teaching on not self.
Jadi secara ringkas ini adalah ajaran yang Buddha ajarkan tentang tidak adanya diri.
Okay, so now Vicky has asked, Dear Bhante, how to see the impermanent in consciousness?
Jadi ada pertanyaan, bagaimana cara melihat ketidakketalan di dalam ketidakkesadaran?
Well, seeing impermanence in consciousness is kind of tricky.
Ketidakkekalan dan ketidakkesadaran ini adalah sesuatu yang tricky.
Tricky, right? Yeah. Because we can see that things are impermanent, but consciousness is the seeing of those things.
Jadi kita tak dapat melihat ketidakkekalan itu, tetapi ketidaksadaran itu adalah sesuatu yang kita harus lihat dari ketidakkekalan itu.
So how do we see the seer?
Jadi bagaimana caranya kita melihatnya?
It's not easy.
Tidaklah mudah.
It's like, how do you see your own eyes?
Seperti bagaimana caranya kita melihat mata kita sendiri.
How do you see your own eyes?
Bagaimana caranya kita melihat mata kita sendiri?
Try it now. See how it works.
Cobalah sekarang bagaimana caranya bekerja.
It's not easy, is it?
Ya, tidaklah mudah.
But there is a way.
Tapi ada caranya.
You look in the mirror.
Lihatlah ke cermin.
And so the same way in terms of understanding consciousness, when we want to see consciousness, we see how consciousness is reflected in everything else.
Nah, inilah cara yang sama bagaimana kita melihatnya alam ke bawah sadar kita itu adalah dengan caranya melihat hal-hal lainnya.
So the four aggregates are like the mirror in which we see consciousness.
Jadi 4 agregat itu adalah seperti kita melihat dengan cermin untuk melihat ke bawah sadarnya kita itu.
As form, feeling, perception, and choices.
Seperti bentuk, perasaan, dan pilihan.
So when all of those things manifest, when they occur, they only occur together with consciousness.
Jadi pada saat hal-hal ini terjadi, ini hanya terjadi di alam bawah sadar.
And so we can see how those things work because they're always there together.
Dan kita dapat melihat bagaimana hal ini bekerja karena mereka selalu bersamaan.
And that's why it's so important in meditation to purify your mind.
Oleh karena itu, kenapa ini sangat penting pada saat kita meditasi untuk memurnikan pikiran kita.
Because normally it's like we're not looking in a mirror, we're looking at a muddy stream with waves and turbulence and so on.
Karena ini bukan hanya kita melihat secara normal seperti di kaca, tapi kita melihat ke dalam di mana itu penuh dengan gonjang-ganjing dan juga hal-hal yang menutupi kita untuk melihat ke dalam.
And so it's very hard to see the seer. you can't see your reflection.
Makanya ini sangat sulit untuk melihat ke dalam diri kita karena refleksi diri kita itu sulit untuk dilihat.
But when your mind is very pure and the hindrances have gone away, everything in the five khandhas becomes very pure and very clear, and you can actually see that reflection of consciousness in the other aggregates.
Dan pada saat kita itu mempunyai pikiran yang murni, kita akan mengurangi gangguan itu sehingga dengan lima kanda itu kita dapat melihat alam bawah sadar kita itu dengan baik.
But for practical purposes, this is why we should always focus. The primary focus is on the impermanence of the body.
Tapi kita untuk tujuan latihan kita harus ingat bahwa tujuan utamanya itu adalah melihat ketidakkekalan dari tubuh kita ini.
Because you always start with the easy parts.
Karena kita selalu mulai dengan hal-hal yang lebih mudah.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Namo Buddhaya. So another one. This is from Made. And so, Vicky, I hope that was satisfactory for you. And so from Made, it says, Namo Buddhaya Bante. Hi, Made, how are you going? I've been doing meditation for 3 years. Congratulations. That is fantastic. Keep it up. I only learn myself because I don't have a teacher. That's a shame. I hope that you find a teacher or find someone who can support you in your meditation going forward. What do you think? Do I need a teacher to learn meditation, or can it be just through books? So I'll give Lucky a chance to translate that.
Okay. Jadi Pak Made ini udah berlatih meditasi selama 3 tahun. Tapi saya berlatih meditasi sendiri dan tidak mempunyai seorang guru. Nah, bagaimana menurut Bante? Apakah saya perlu guru atau lanjutkan dengan latihan sendiri?
Okay. Yeah. So look, it's much better to have a teacher.
Jadi tidak perlu untuk punya seorang guru.
And failing that, it's also really important to have a community.
Satu hal yang lebih penting lagi adalah untuk mempunyai sebuah komunitas.
And to have a Dhamma community who you can have a regular contact with.
Mempunyai suatu komunitas Dhamma di mana kamu dapat berkomunikasi dengan mereka.
Yeah. So if you are by yourself and you don't have access to those things, then yeah, sure, try meditation out and see how it goes.
Tapi jika kamu seorang diri dan tidak punya jalur untuk menemukan hal itu, ya silakan latihan sendiri dan lihatlah bagaimana itu berkembangnya nanti.
There's plenty of talks and meditation apps and these kinds of things that can help you.
Akan banyak pembicaraan topik-topik tentang meditasi dan juga sekarang banyak apps tentang meditasi yang kamu bisa gunakan saat ini.
And if everything's going okay, then you should be all right.
Jika semuanya oke, maka kamu akan baik-baik saja.
Yeah, but if you feel like something's going wrong, if you feel like you're having very strange experiences or things that are happening that are very distressing or very confusing, then it's really important to find somebody that you can talk to about those things.
Nah, jika semuanya udah oke-oke saja, tidak ada masalah. Tetapi jika tidak oke, menemukan sesuatu keanehan atau yang salah, itu ada baiknya kita mencari guru supaya bisa dibantu, dibimbing dalam hal meditasi ini.
Yeah. So if you can, find somebody who you can get some feedback for about meditation, then that would be really good. So jika kamu bisa dapat menggunakan input-input yang kamu dapat itu untuk konsultasi dengan seorang guru, itu sangatlah lebih baik. Okay, good. So I hope that's helpful for you, Made.
Ya, Bante harap itu sangat menolong kepada Pak Made tentang jawaban dari Bante.
Okay, and we have one last question, and this is from Evi.
Yeah, from Evi.
Evi, and she says, Bante, could you kindly give some practical advice on meditation that's doable for families at home during this pandemic to deal with fear, anxiety, and emotional conflicts with each other because they're now trapped in the house and see each other more often. Usually don't get to see each other because they work outside the house. Anumodana.
So I'll translate first ya, Bante.
Please,
the
yeah.
question. Okay. Jadi pertanyaannya adalah Bante, bisakah Bante memberikan saran atau meditasi yang praktis yang dapat dikerjakan oleh keluarga pada saat di rumah saat pandemi untuk mengatasi ketakutan, mengatasi emosi di mana dapat terjadi konflik antara satu sama lain. Karena mereka-mereka ini sekarang seperti terjebak di dalam suatu rumah dan akan melihat satu sama lain lebih sering daripada biasanya. Biasanya mereka kan tidak terlalu sering melihat satu sama lain karena mereka harus bekerja di luar rumah, Anumodana.
Okay. So yeah, thanks. That's a very important question.
Ya, ini adalah pertanyaan yang sangat penting.
So I'll just say a few things here. Number one is that, yes, I appreciate, and I think that it's good that you've mentioned about the fear and the anxiety that people are experiencing.
Jadi ada beberapa hal yang Bante akan sampaikan. Yang pertama tentu Bante menghargai bahwa di sini dikatakan bahwa terjadi ketakutan dan kestresan di dalam keluarga saat ini.
And you know, we're living in times where there are so many reasons to feel this fear and anxiety. We have the pandemic, we have political unrest and uncertainty, we have climate change, we have so many things that could go wrong, in addition to all of the normal problems and stresses of life.
Ya, jadi memang kita semua sekarang hidup dalam suasana yang penuh ketakutan dan ketidakpastian, baik itu berupa unsur-unsur kerusuhan seperti political unrest dan juga ketidakpastian dan juga perubahan iklim. Belum lagi dengan masalah-masalah yang biasanya kita hadapi dalam suasana kehidupan normal.
So the first thing to do is to recognize that these things do actually cause this fear and anxiety, that it's natural, that if you're feeling it, then others are feeling it as well. And so to have compassion for others who are feeling those things.
Jadi yang pertama kita harus mengenali apakah ini benar-benar hal yang menyebabkan kita itu menjadi takut, menjadi stres. Dan kita itu harus mengenali bahwa memang sebenarnya yang terjadi sekarang ini adalah dialami oleh semuanya, bukan hanya kita.
I think it's also important to recognize that when people are going through this, if they don't have a Dhamma practice and they don't have a way of dealing with these things in a healthy way, they will often express them in an unhealthy way.
Dan juga ini sangat penting untuk kita itu mengenali bahwa kita itu bisa melewati masa ini dengan praktek Dhamma. Nah, karena kalau kita bisa mengenali praktek Dhamma itu, maka kita dapat mengatasi hal ini secara yang sehat, bukan dengan cara yang tidak sehat.
And so, you know, one of the things that is great concern in this time, especially, is the incidence of domestic violence. And especially for women who may be exposed to domestic violence in the home and in normal times have maybe some way of coping or escaping or dealing with it. But in this time, you know, they're trapped in a case where, you know, maybe the husband might be out of work or stressed or drinking more or something like that, and they've got nowhere to escape to.
Satu hal yang sangat perlu diperhatikan juga adalah bagaimana caranya kita mengatasi hal-hal yang terjadi saat ini, hal-hal yang terjadi yang menyebabkan kita terjebak dalam suasana saat ini di rumah. Misalnya si suami itu tidak lagi bekerja sehingga dia terlalu banyak di rumah dan terlalu banyak melakukan hal-hal yang mungkin tidak sesuai.
So it's really important that we recognize that this is happening in our community.
Jadi kita harus menyadari bahwa ini itu penting, bahwa hal-hal seperti ini sedang terjadi di komunitas kita sendiri saat ini.
And often it's hidden.
Bahkan kadang-kadang terselimuti dan tersembunyi hal-hal ini.
But it's happening in the families in your neighborhood, in your apartments, in your Dhamma center.
Dan ini terjadi sebenarnya di kita punya tetangga, di kita punya wihara, Dhamma center, dan juga di komunitas-komunitas kita.
So look out for each other.
Jadi kita harus bisa menjaga satu sama lain.
Yeah, pay attention if you see that there are people that are around you or people in your community who seem distressed or who seem that they're going through suffering or something like that, then just, say a kind word, reach out to them, ask them how they're going.
Jadi kita harus memperhatikan orang-orang yang di sekitar kita, ya kan, apakah mereka stres, apakah karena mereka sedang menderita, kita harus bisa mendekati mereka, ngajak mereka bicara dengan berkata-kata baik dan melakukan hal-hal yang baik.
So these are two things that I've mentioned so far. The first thing is that to acknowledge the reality that the fear and the anxiety and the stress is there.
Jadi ada dua hal yang Bante katakan di sini. Yang pertama, kita harus mengetahui bahwa kejadian saat ini secara realitas adalah memang seperti ini. Nah, kita harus tahu akan hal itu.
Second thing is to pay attention to the fact that this is happening in others as well, to notice it and be aware of it, and to reach out and to try to help others.
Yang kedua adalah kita harus memberikan perhatian bahwa memang hal ini juga terjadi kepada orang lain, dan oleh karena itu kita harus memberikan perhatian dan juga kita harus menjaga dan mengamati jika ada orang yang menderita.
And the final thing that I'll mention, the third thing is that to try to develop some kind of wholesome, healthy practice that you can do as a family during this time of pandemic.
Dan yang ketiga itu adalah kita harus bisa mengembangkan kita punya praktek perbuatan baik yang bersifat menyembuhkan, terutama di dalam keluarga kita juga.
Ideally, that might be, say, doing some meditation together.
Secara ideal, mungkin kita bisa meditasi bersama di keluarga.
Or perhaps doing a Buddha puja together.
Atau melakukan Buddha puja bersama.
Maybe that might not be possible. Maybe not everyone in your family is practicing Dhamma.
Mungkin itu tidak mungkin karena tidak semua anggota keluarga mungkin tidak semuanya belajar Dhamma.
So take the time to try and do something that you can enjoy together. It might be going for a walk, it might be playing a game together, it might be listening to some music, but something positive that you can do to remind yourself that actually these people are your family, they're your friends.
Jadi kita sebagai satu keluarga kita harus coba melakukan menyisihkan waktu untuk melakukan sesuatu bersama-sama, seperti misalnya jalan-jalan sore, seperti misalnya mendengarkan musik, bermain game. Nah, ini mengingatkan kita bahwa orang-orang ini sebenarnya juga bukan hanya keluarga tetapi juga teman kita.
And don't forget to have a laugh.
Dan juga jangan lupa untuk mempunyai cinta.
And even just to have a laugh at how ridiculous everything is sometimes.
Dan juga harus tertawa dan bahwa hal-hal yang hal-hal sesuatu yang aneh itu juga bisa merupakan hal-hal yang lucu.
Like Venerable Akaliko and I, we're staying here at this little flat in Sydney together, and so we entertain ourselves in various ways by, for example, watching the plants grow.
Jadi seperti Bante Akaliko itu bersama Bante Sujato tinggal di satu flat apartemen di Sydney. Mereka itu saling menghibur satu sama lain.
Oh wow, this pot plant's got a new leaf on it.
Ya, seperti misalnya ada tumbuhan ini tidak mempunyai daun.
Or we watch the birds that come on our balcony and we say, oh look, the bird, is that the one that came yesterday? I'm not sure.
Seperti burung-burung yang juga datang ke balkoni apartemen, apakah burung ini yang kemarin yang datang gitu.
And so it's a way of reminding ourselves that even though we're here in these very difficult times, actually life goes on.
Jadi itu adalah sebagai cara untuk mengingatkan kita bahwa walaupun kita di rumah, tetap hidup itu harus berjalan.
And so this is something, and that kind of way of reflective understanding of these things, this is something that you as Dhamma practitioners have to offer to the other people in your life.
Jadi ini adalah sesuatu untuk merefleksikan juga kepada diri kita, sesuatu pengertian bahwa ini adalah sesuatu dan Dhamma offer, jadi penawaran tentang kepengetahuan Dhamma yang dapat kita berikan kepada orang.
Okay, so we should probably finish up there, Lucky. What do you think?
Okay, yeah. Actually, there is one more question he wants. Really? I think she wants to ask directly to you.
Okay, who's that?
The name is, I don't know, hold on. Dita Dhamma.
Dita Dhamma?
Ya, Dita Dhamma. Boleh yang dengan username Dita Dhamma boleh sampaikan langsung? Yang tadi raise hand.
Sutta Central. Yeah.
I think. Wait, Nanya.
I'm just trying to find where they are.
Oh, I think she left already.
Left already?
I think she left already. I don't.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's
Yeah.
impermanent.
That's impermanent. Yeah. Yeah. I don't see the username. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, no problems.
All right. Okay.
Okay, look, just let me say thank you. It's been a wonderful pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much to all of the people there at Dhammasukha and all the whole community there. And I know, you have such a very beautiful and a very precious community. And I know that those qualities of kind of looking out for each other and so on are very much there, and they're very much part of how you're practicing Dhamma. So I'm really very honored that you invited me to come along and to share some Dhamma with you. And I hope that was of some use for you and some entertainment and perhaps some education as well. And I wish you all of the best. I hope that you can all thrive during this period and that you will all swiftly and pleasantly realize Nibbana.
Sadhu.
So,
Thank you, Bante Anumodana, for spending your time and then the Dhamma talk for all of us. On behalf of the devotees and also the committees of the Vihara Purita Dharmasukha, we would like to say again thank you, and Anumodana for everything. Have a good night. Stay healthy for you too.
Sadhu.